Hello, everybody. My name is Craig Stalzer. Welcome to Career Information from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I am an economist with the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics in the Employment Projections Program. If you have questions throughout the presentation, you can send it. I will try to get to as many as I can towards the end of the presentation. And if I do not, I will provide you with my email address at the end. Feel free to follow up with me if you have any questions at the end of the presentation. So let me give you a little background on the Employment Projections Program. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is underneath the Department of Labor. The Employment Projections Program makes 10-year projections every 2 years. We just released our 2012 to 2022 projections back in December 2013. We use our projections to do a lot of things. Mostly it goes into our Occupational Outlook handbook, which I will discuss a little later on in the presentation. Our projections are only on the national level, so if you're interested in how a particular occupation is doing in your state, in your region, this slide right here has the website for data at the state level, www.projectioncentral.com. The program, the office that I work in, covers hundreds of occupations, over 700 to be exact, and in over 300 industries. Again, I will talk a little bit more about specifics a little later on. That was just a little bit of a background. So I wanted to first talk about occupations and percent growth versus numeric change in an occupation. This slide right here shows the two occupations, audiologists and retail salespersons. You'll notice that the top graph shows the percentage growth of the occupation. Audiologists projected to grow over 33% over the next 10 years. Retail salespersons, about 8% over the next 10 years. But that doesn't explain the whole story. Audiologists, compared to retail salespersons, are such a small occupation. So when you look at our data, it's important to look at both the percentage growth rate and the absolute number of jobs that will be created over the next 10 years. For example, the 33% growth rate of audiologists will only lead to a few thousand new jobs over the next decade. And the much slower growth rate of retail salespersons will lead to hundreds of thousands of new jobs over the next decade. Why? Just because retail salespersons is just a very large occupation in the economy right now. So when you use our data, it is important to note those two differences. Next slide. Sorry about that. So what are the fastest growing occupations in terms of percentage change? Here is a list of a few of the fastest growing occupations. If you look at it briefly, you'll notice personal care aides, home health aides, medical sonographers. A lot of these have to do with the healthcare industry. There are a few exceptions, industrial organizational psychologists, etc. And you'll also see that I put the median annual wage in 2012 to the right. So you can see just how much some of these occupations pay in 2012 and how fast they are projected to grow over the next decade. Now, as I was saying, the fastest growing doesn't necessarily mean the occupations with the largest absolute numeric growth. If you compare the previous slide with this one, you'll see there are some similarities, but there are some differences. Personal care aides are on both, just because it is a relatively large occupation, and it is projected to grow pretty quickly over the next decade. But there are some, like I said, retail salespersons is number 3 on this list with about average growth, but because it's such a large occupation in the economy right now, it is projected to add one of the most highest level of numeric largest jobs over the next decade. And again, you'll see the median annual wages on the right. Now, not to throw another wrench into your analysis, but employment growth versus replacement needs. Some of you might have summer jobs as a waiter, waitress, lifeguard, etc. There are some jobs where the turnover in the occupation occurs more frequently than other jobs in the economy. For example, cashiers is usually a summer job for high school or college students, and then once they go back to school, they'll leave that job, and the employer will have to hire someone else. So that's where the replacement needs data comes from. As you see, registered nurses is an occupation that is projected to add a whole lot of jobs over the next decade. Conversely, cashiers, not so much. But when you look at job openings, so how hard is it to apply for and get these jobs? Cashiers is more than registered nurses in that there will probably be more job openings, job vacancies, job announcements for cashiers than there are for registered nurses, because cashiers typically do not stay at their job for very long. It is a summer job. It is a temporary job. People move out of that job into other occupations. So that is another thing that you should consider when you look at our data. So it all boils down to the occupations with the most job openings over the next 10 years. And you'll see that on this slide, we distinguish between openings due to the growth of the occupation and also the openings due to employers needing to replace workers that leave the occupation. And you'll see, as I mentioned, retail salespersons is the #1 occupation with the most job openings over the next decade. You'll see the top 4 are should not be surprising: fast food workers, cashiers, waiters, waitresses, etc. And you'll see registered nurses, about equal number of job openings due to growth and replacement needs. Now, this is a handy table that combines everything that I just said. If you go to that website, you'll have the list of occupations, you'll have their growth rate, you'll have their job openings due to growth and also replacement rates. And then in the last 3 columns, you'll also have information on what education training or previous work experience do I need to get into that occupation? It is a very handy chart. I use it pretty much daily when I look at occupations, and I think it would be very helpful for high school students, college students, career changers to look at that chart and see what area, what occupation interests them the most and what they need to do to get into that occupation. Now we talked about growth, percentage growth, absolute numeric growth. There are some jobs that we project to decline over the next 10 years. Postal service clerks, the Postal Service is not doing too well nowadays. A lot of these are agricultural jobs or jobs where technology has really replaced the occupation. Fallers are people that chop down trees. We have machines now that can do those things. So these are the occupations, and again, you'll see the median wage on the left side now that we project to decline over the next 10 years. And again, percentage decline versus absolute numeric decline. You'll see some of these occupations on both slides. Postal Service clerks is one. So if you're interested in these occupations, just know the competition for jobs, the job environment probably be a little difficult going forward. Now this is a chart which is a favorite of high school teachers, high school guidance counselors. This is our education pays chart. Not surprisingly, the more education you have, one, the higher your earnings, the higher your salary, and two, the lower your unemployment rate on average. So you'll see that someone with a bachelor's degree on average will typically make more than someone with an associate's degree, someone with a high school diploma, someone with less than a high school diploma, and the unemployment rate will be lower. Again, I must caution, this is on average. There are some jobs that only require an associate's degree that do pay more than an occupation that requires a master's degree. So it really is up to the students to sort of research what job interests them the most. But this is a handy chart to say that education typically pays more, and the unemployment rate drops the more education you have. Similarly, we also do, we take our occupational projections and we make projections for how fast employment will grow by the level of education needed. This is our base year, so 2012. You'll notice that about 58 million jobs in the economy required a high school diploma or equivalent in 2012. Less than high school and high school diploma were the largest shares of occupations. So that was in 2012. Percentage change, though, you'll see that occupations that require a master's degree, that require an associate's degree, are projected to grow much faster than those that require a high school diploma. That should not be surprising. the world is becoming more technologically advanced. People need to have some college education. Competition for jobs is, pretty tough. The occupations that require a bachelor's or a master's degree are projected to grow much faster than those occupations that only require a high school diploma or less. And again, this is the numeric value of the projections growth rate. So you'll see that high school diploma or equivalent will add the most new jobs, but that is only because it is the largest segment of the economy right now. As I mentioned, growth rate versus absolute numeric value of jobs. Now I'm going to break down some of the fastest growing jobs by level of occupation. This is our slide for doctoral or professional degree occupations. You'll see that lawyers are projected to add about 75,000 new jobs over the next 10 years. So these are the jobs where you need to have a PhD, a doctoral degree, or a professional degree. For instance, lawyers need to have a law degree to become a lawyer. As all the other slides, you'll see the median annual wage on the right. On the left is information regarding work experience and on-the-job training that is required. So lawyers do not need any previous work experience. All you really need is a bachelor's degree and go on to law school and get your law degree. And once you graduate and pass the bar, you can begin working as a lawyer. That is not the case for some occupations. Some require a few years of work experience in a related occupation. Some require on-the-job training lasting anywhere from a few weeks to a few months to a few years. IR, as you'll see in some, are typically for medical occupations. It means internship or residency, where you practice but sort of under the guidance of a more experienced medical professional. So this is our slide for the master's degree occupations. Again, it's same as the previous slide, just giving you a list of the 10 most jobs that are projected to add the most new jobs over the next 10 years that require a master's degree. Here we are with the bachelor's degree occupations. Again, on the right is the median annual wage, and I bolded the ones that is the highest paying out of these 10 occupations. Associate's degree, registered nurses stands out above the rest. As I mentioned before, anything with healthcare is typically projected to grow pretty quickly for a variety of different reasons. One, recent federal legislation that expands healthcare to to Americans, people that were without healthcare over the past few years now have access to it. There could be a lot of pent-up demand for healthcare, and also baby boomers getting into their 60s and 70s, and typically, on average, older Americans require much more healthcare than younger Americans like you and me. Here's our high school diploma slide with the top 10 fastest growing jobs over the next 10 years. You'll see again on the right, on the left side, I should say, under the T, S stands for short term, which is typically a few weeks. M is moderate term, typically a few months, and A is an apprenticeship. So you'll see that carpenters typically require a technical apprenticeship to learn about the trade. So yeah, the W and the T, I just got a question. The W and the T is work experience. How much work experience do you need to become that occupation? And the T is on-the-job training, short-term, moderate-term, long-term, on-the-job training, or an apprenticeship, or an internship, or residency, etc. And here's our, it should be our final slide on occupations. And these are the occupations that require less than a high school diploma. And not surprisingly, you'll see on the right side that these occupations typically pay less than the average salary. It's in the 20,000s job. Some of these are part-time jobs, some of these are full-time jobs. You can go to each occupational profile and see what the work schedule, work environment is like for these types of jobs. So what I specifically work on is the Occupational Outlook Handbook. So if I can have everyone go to that website that's listed on the slide, www.bls.gov/OOH, I will walk you through what this handbook has, how you can use it for your own career search, etc. I just got a question regarding, will this presentation be available to view later on? Yes, it will be through, I believe, the College Week Live website, or as I mentioned before, if you have any questions, if you want the slides, if you want the data, if you want someone to explain the data, I can give you my email address. You can contact me later on today. You can contact me whenever, and I would be more than happy to give you the slides, explain our data a little bit more. If you don't have any questions now, but you do later on, I'd be more than happy to explain or help answer any questions you have. So if everyone is at this website, bls.gov/OOH, this is the Occupational Outlook Handbook. It is the most popular Bureau of Labor Statistics product out there. It is mostly used by students, by guidance counselors, by teachers. We had 75 million page views just last year. It is also good for if you're considering changing careers and want to know a little bit more about an occupation. People can come to the OOH, the handbook, and get information on, again, hundreds of occupations that we cover. If you're at the home page right now, you will see this. You should see this. Occupational Outlook Handbook up top, home page. You'll see a list of occupational groups on the left side. You'll see a occupational, select occupation by up top. So we usually, if you know what occupation you are interested in, go ahead and search for it. If you don't, we do have ways to get information on occupations that you may not even have heard about. Um, if you, for example, if you're interested in becoming a lawyer, you can click on the left side and select legal, and that should bring you to a page with different occupations in the legal sector, and lawyers is one of them. If you don't know what occupation you want to search for, you can um, select jobs that are the highest paying, the fastest growing, or the occupations that are projected to add the most new jobs over the next 10 years. We also have an occupation finder where you can search, if you search for doctor, it'll bring you to the page for physicians and surgeons. We also have an A to Z index, so if you're not sure what to search for, you can look up top and you'll see A to Z index. You can scroll through those and select the ones that most closely matches the occupation that you're interested in. So if you are at the home page and you're not sure what occupation interests you the most, but you know that you want an occupation that pays more than $75,000 a year, you can select the drop-down menu for 2012 median pay and select only those occupations which pay more than $75,000 a year. And you'll get to a page that looks similar to this. And then you can toggle, you can sort, you can filter out by select criteria. So if you only want an occupation that pays more than $75,000 a year, but you only want to get an associate's degree to enter the occupation, you just select the entry-level education and select associate's degree. And that should bring you to a few occupations that match those two criteria. You can also, if you're on the home page, you just select, I'm only interested in the highest paying jobs, regardless of entry-level education required, regardless of on-the-job training required. I'm only interested in the highest paying occupations. You can click on highest paying and you'll get this information. And you'll notice that most are types of doctors or occupations in the medical field. You can also do it for the fastest growing occupations or most new jobs over the next decade. Here's our A to Z index that I mentioned. Some of the titles that we use may not be as well known as sort of their, for example, doctors. If you scroll to D and select doctors, it will take you to our physicians and surgeons profile. So if you're interested, yeah, just scroll through our A to Z index and select the occupation that most closely matches your interest. So what does the OOH entail? What information does it have for students, for guidance counselors, for teachers? For every profile, occupational profile, we describe the job duties of the occupation, typical day-to-day job responsibilities of the occupation, the work environment of the occupation, so what industries do they work in, what is the job like? Is it mostly sitting at a desk in an office? Is it some field work? What are the hours like? Is it mostly 9 to 5? Is it does it require overnight shifts? Does it require weekend work? Does it require working with other professionals as part of a team? etc. We also detail, again, how to become one. What education do I need to enter the occupation? What training do I need? Do I need any previous work experience? Do I need any licensing or certification to enter the occupation? We also have pay data. So how much does the occupation make? How much does the occupation earn? We also give a salary range, so someone can look at that and get a general idea of how much they can expect to earn. And job outlook, how fast do we project it to grow over the next 10 years? And what are some of the factors that are affecting that growth? Similar occupations. If you're interested in an occupation, but you don't have the time to go get a master's degree, we do our best to provide occupations that have similar job duties, that work in similar industries, that may have different educational requirements or training requirements. So if you're interested in an occupation, that's great. Look at it, research it, but there are other occupations with similar duties, job responsibilities. So we would highly encourage you to check out those as well. And we also have a tab for contacts for more information. So we can't possibly provide every little bit of information regarding an occupation. So that tab provides the links to professional organizations that may have additional information on an occupation. For example, lawyers, we provide the link to the American Bar Association, and they would be able to provide you additional data, additional research, additional resources on what it takes to become a lawyer. And this is just the summary page of the occupational profile. Just goes briefly through one or two sentences of the things that I mentioned, what they earn, how to become one, employment projections, etc. And this is what the summary page looks like. If you're only interested in quick facts, you'll see that we just give the data, how much they make, what's required, how fast it's projected to grow, etc. So that is just the summary tab. The what they do tab, as I mentioned, typical day-to-day job responsibilities. What do they do? How do they do it? The work environment tab, who do they work with? Where do they work? Is it dangerous? Is there a chance for an injury or an illness on their job? And what the work schedules are like. Is it part-time? Is it full-time? Is it 9 to 5? Is it an overnight shift? For example, if you become a police officer, yes, chances are you work in 8-hour, 10-hour shifts. Someone takes the morning, the afternoon, and someone has to be on duty overnight. So that's information that we provide you. And this is just a sample what they do tab. In the what they do tab, we also provide information on different types of occupations. For example, as you can see, lawyers. There are many different types of lawyers. Most lawyers typically specialize in one area of law. So someone may be a criminal attorney, someone may be an immigration attorney, someone may be a family law attorney. So we do our best to highlight that even though it's an occupation, there are subspecialties within the occupation, and some of their job duties might differ depending on what area you specialize in. And this is a sample work environment. We show you how many jobs there were of an occupation in 2012. We provide you with the industries that they work in. Not surprisingly, about half of lawyers worked in the legal services industry, so they worked for law firms. But a good percentage of them worked for government, whether it's local government, state government, federal government, and some also worked for banks, investment banks, and companies. A lot of companies have in-house lawyers that they need to take care of any of their business. And you'll see, work schedules down below. How to become one tab. As I mentioned, what level of education do you need to enter the occupation? Do you need to have a bachelor's degree? Do you need to have a master's degree? Do you need to have a professional degree? Do you not need any of that? And you can enter the occupation with a high school diploma or an equivalent GED. Work experience. A lot of managerial positions. If you're looking to become a manager, that's not something that you typically just enter into. It's something where you enter in at a lower level occupation and you work your way up into a managerial position. So we describe that under work experience. On the job training, as I mentioned, how long does it take you to get comfortable with, proficient in the skills you need to do your job well? It can last anywhere from a few days to a few weeks to a few months. Licensing and certification. If you are interested in becoming a lawyer, you need to have a law license. You need to pass the bar exam in the state where you want to work. We list some important qualities. Obviously, if you want to become a mathematician or a statistician, you need to have solid math skills, and it needs to be advanced math and advancement. If you enter an occupation, are you stuck in that occupation, or is there room for promotion? Is there room for growth? What other occupations can you transfer into with higher earning potential, etc. And this is just a sample how to become one section. You see that we do also provide links to additional contacts. For the lawyer one, we do provide the contact for American Bar Association. You'll see that, as I mentioned, the licensing section describes that someone needs to pass the bar exam, and that link there provides information on state-by-state bar exam information. And the pay. This is probably the most interesting to students. No shame in wanting a job that pays well. So this is the tab that describes the median annual or median hourly wage. We also provide wages by industry. As I mentioned, a lawyer typically works for law firms, but they may also work for government as well. So the pay may be different by industry. And then we also show how the pay compares to other occupations. So for instance, for lawyers, their pay is pretty high. How does it compare to the average of all the occupations in the economy? How does it compare to other legal related occupations? So we have a chart that shows that, and union membership. Some jobs, construction jobs or public sector jobs, some of the workers may be a member of the union. So we also give that information as well. And here is a sample pay tab. This profile, as I mentioned, has wages by industry and also wages by compared to other legal occupations, which you'll see on the right. And our job outlook section. So how fast is an occupation projected to grow over the next 10 years? And why? That's equally important. We need to understand why an occupation is projected to grow average, faster than average, below average, or projected to decline. What are the factors that lead us to make our projections? It could be anything. It could be, demand for a product. As I mentioned, as Americans get older, they'll demand more healthcare services. That demand will lead to an increase in jobs available to doctors, to nurses, to physician assistants. Is there technological change that is affecting the demand? Is there some technological change where employers can now produce as much product, but they can hire less workers? Is there competition from, international companies? Is there offshoring or outsourcing? Are some companies taking jobs and moving them overseas where wages are typically lower, etc.? We also have a job prospects section, which looks at how competitive a occupation is. In terms of lawyers, it may be growing about average and adding about 70,000 new jobs over the next decade, but how many students are interested in becoming a lawyer? How many students graduate each year from law school and get their law degree? That all affects the competition for jobs. And like the pay section, we also have a chart that compares the projected change to other occupations in the economy. And here is our sample job outlook section. Similar occupations, as I mentioned, if you're interested in becoming a lawyer but you don't want to go to law school, this tab will have occupations that have similar job duties or work in similar environments and industries. If you don't want to become a lawyer but you are really interested in the law and you want to work in a law firm, you can become a paralegal, and that requires less education than a law degree, and you work with similar people on similar cases. Your job duties will obviously differ, but it's the same type of job. And the contacts for more information, as I mentioned, you can email me if you have any questions. I'd be more than happy to help. Or you can go to these resources. They may have the information or the data that you need. They may be able to help you answer your questions. And here's a sample similar occupations tab. And a similar contacts for more informations tab. Now, besides the handbook, we do have the Employment Projections Program website, and the site address is right there. That is like the chart that I linked to many slides ago. It's basically just data on job openings, job growth, wages, etc. And you can sort and filter it out by industry, by occupation, by level of education needed, etc. We also have the Occupational Outlook Quarterly, and the address is there. Because we only publish the handbook every 2 years, the Occupational Outlook Quarterly is produced 4 times a year. There is some overlap. There is some career information there, but it also has additional information, such as paying for college. The quarterly will give advice on how to apply for scholarships, apply for loans, apply for grants, etc. And there's a lot of helpful information there. So I would encourage you, if you're looking at the handbook, to also take a look at the Outlook Quarterly as well. And for our Spanish speakers, we recently, within the past year and a half, created the Spanish Occupational Outlook Handbook. So if that's easier for you to understand, we do have that resource available, and the link and the web address is right there. So, and that is it. That is all the information I had. You have my email address. Are there any questions? Feel free to type them right now. We have, about 10 minutes or more remaining in the chat. I would be more than happy to try to answer some of your questions if you have them. Any questions at all? Well, you are welcome. It's been great. Again, I love what I do. It's very interesting. Teachers, guidance counselors. It's very nice to get positive feedback. If there's anything that you think that we should cover, anything that I can do to sort of improve how to present this data, again, my email is there. I'm always looking, to improve how we relay this data to the people that need it the most: high school students, college students, teachers, etc. As I mentioned, some people have a question on the fact that it's national projections. That might not be useful to them. They want to know how an occupation is doing in their own state, in their own region. On one of the beginning slides, you'll notice that I did give the link to a website that provides projections, occupational projections data by state. So feel free to take a look at that as well. Any other questions? Okay, well, great. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. You have my email. If anything should come about, feel free to send me an email. Okay? Thank you, everybody.